Well, you know, Mount Washington is the tallest mountain in New Hampshire. And Brigham Young stood on top of that mountain and he said, "This is the right place." Pointing to the west, he said, "But we'll go there because we don't want to pollute God's country."
Okay, okay. I see. That sounds right to me.
I
No,
have.
I've never been to New Hampshire, but it's
You haven't?
no. Yeah.
My wife and I have 17 children,
Okay.
and a lot of them have settled out here because of school and stuff.
Okay.
And then they married and they ended up staying. So it makes for a great place to. My kids are all working the
Yeah.
last 2 days, so I've been walking.
Okay.
I probably walked about 20 miles
Oh, fun.
in Ogden yesterday and Salt Lake City today.
Nice. Do you have a favorite place that you've walked by?
Uh, you know what? To be honest with you, the houses that have tons and tons of roses in the front yards.
Mm,
I love roses.
yeah.
But the conference center is my next to Temple Square, which is closed up, is my favorite place.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Huge, like amphitheater place to.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you been to any of the concerts at the Tabernacle Choir Christmas concert?
I've
or
been
anything
to
like that?
spoken word a couple of times.
Okay, great.
So I will skip church to go watch a spoken word when I'm out here.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
and I love that. The amazing thing is, like you say, it's clear span, but from the very back seat to the podium is 110 yards, the length of a football field plus the end fields.
Okay.
And that just amazes me that they have a clear span that big.
Yeah. Well, and there's no one thing that amazes me is there's no pillars like in the middle of the
Yep.
theater. It's just the engineering feat of that building is just amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
So when do we start?
Do we have okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, yeah, so what's your name?
I am Bryan Smith.
Bryan Smith.
With a Y.
I'm Matthew Havertz, by the way. I'm from here. I'm from Utah. And you said you're from New Hampshire, right?
Yep.
Awesome. How long have you been in Utah this time?
I arrived in Las Vegas about on the 17th.
Okay.
Stayed there 4 days with a granddaughter and then took a bus up, and I've been up here ever since.
Okay.
And won't be leaving until probably the 6th or 7th of June.
Okay. Do you have plans like that you're looking forward to the next couple days? You're going to stay in Salt Lake for a little bit?
Tomorrow night, a bunch of my kids are getting together with their children, and we're going to camp out.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. We have fun when we get together.
Okay, awesome.
Unfortunately, everybody can't come, but it's going to be a fun time anyway.
Cool. Well, this is you can take a look at this. It's called Street Epistemology, and the idea here is that we want to discuss something that's meaningful to you,
Yep.
that is something you believe is true, that affects your actions, your behavior, right? And so there's all sorts of things that we discuss. We were talking about how the street epistemology community is so diverse. There are people who are vegetarians and vegans, Republicans, Democrats, all sorts of different things. And so we're not trying to change your mind,
Yep.
right? We're not trying to convince you of anything. We're not trying to get into an argument. We kind of use this Socratic method and ask questions to explore things that you believe.
All right.
So do you have any questions? Does that make sense?
Nope. Go for it.
Okay, great. So we can start by thinking through that. Do you have something that, and think of something that's meaningful to you. Do you have something meaningful to you that you believe is true, that you'd want to, that if you found out it wasn't true, that would affect your life?
Yep. No, the most meaningful thing to me in my life is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
I read an average of 2 hours a day commentaries for the scriptures so I can get a better understanding of it. And the more I read, the more I believe. It's just profoundly, to me, beautiful. And not a lot of my kids don't go to church, but you know what? they still grow up and they're really, really good kids and I love them to pieces.
Awesome.
Maybe someday they'll turn around, but right now they're living good lives.
Cool. I love that. I love you respect where they are and love them where they are. And so that's a big piece. If you had to boil that down to out of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what is the most meaningful thing you believe is true out of everything that the church teaches or that you believe about the church? What would that be?
Including family?
Yeah, including family.
Yeah, family is number one.
Okay.
Even above the church.
Okay.
Family is the very foundation of the heavens.
Okay.
And the earth. It's the foundation of government. It's the foundation of everything. Without strong families, we go down the toilet.
Okay, great. So I'm going to write that one down. So family is the foundation of the earth and heaven. So now, tell me some others as well. What are some other foundational things? What would be that's number one. What would be number two?
You're just talking about religious things or anything?
What it can be anything. It's something meaningful to you that affects the way you act and behave.
Yep. Well, like I said, one of the most beautiful things out here is the beautiful roses. I love nature and flowers and the mountains, and I can't climb mountains anymore, but when I was in New Hampshire, I climbed a good deal of this seems small to you, but 4,000 footers.
Wow. So what about nature?
I was bike riding with a bunch of Boy Scouts up the Appalachian Trail once. And I was pedaling away and I was not looking. Finally I get exhausted and I had to get off. And I get off and turned around and I realized that the spectacular view behind me. And I was just overcome by the Spirit. It was just so amazing. It was just a witness to me of just how profound and beautiful and powerful our God is, that He could create such wonderful things. It was amazing to me. But I wouldn't have seen that if I didn't get off my bike and turn around. I would have just seen the road in front of me.
Okay. So I'm just taking a couple notes.
Yep.
One area that we can explore is family is the foundation of earth and heaven. I think that's how you said it.
Yeah.
Other one would be God created nature to invite His Spirit to us, would be one. Any other ones that you can think of that are really foundational to you?
Yeah, just watching children be born.
Okay.
I don't know if that ties in with family or not, but I mean, that's pretty spectacular.
Okay. What do you want to, out of those two, which one would you like to explore more? And then I'll have a series of questions about that, and we can explore it more. So God and nature, or family being the foundation?
Oh, let's go with God.
Okay, great. So I heard a couple of things that God created nature. Nature invites His Spirit with us. Is there anything else you would say with that, or are those the two main things? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, it's just everything is just so beautiful.
Okay.
Everything around us. You look up at the stars at night, and you see all the constellations and everything, and to think that was all created by God.
Okay.
Who is literally our Father, our Spirit Father.
Okay.
The creator of our spirits. And to think that He did all of that, it just blows me away.
Okay. Well, let's do God created nature. Let's focus on that. So, I'm gonna write that one down. Oops, if I can write correctly. Did I get that right? God created nature.
God created all things.
Okay, God created...
And nature is a major, major part of that.
All things. Okay. Okay. Does that look right?
Yeah.
God created nature, or God created all things?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now, with that, how did you come to believe that that's true, that God created all things?
Well, I was born and raised in a church. I was taught that all of my life, but I didn't really know it was true until, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
You know, my wife, I'll call her back.
Okay.
I'll call her back in a minute. When I was 21, I had to find out for myself. So I read good religious books, the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and so forth, and I spent some time on my knees, and I just felt that good, warm, overcoming feeling, that a sanctifying feeling of peace that comes from the Spirit.
Okay.
I don't know how better to describe it.
Okay. So I'm going to reiterate that. You prayed, you felt a feeling of warmth and peace, and that's how you know God created all things. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other reasons that support
It's been a
that?
lifelong learning process.
Okay.
You don't learn it all at once. You don't get that warm feeling once and that's it. I mean, from listening to General Conference and listening to talks and, going to church and taking the sacrament, listening to somebody speak, every time you learn something new and the Spirit bears witness of it, it just strengthens your mindset to the reality of a God. I mean, when a bishop is called to be a bishop, usually when he's called, I immediately, before the bishop even sits down after being asked to stand up, ask Heavenly Father, is this who you want? And usually I have an overwhelming feeling of good, because God knows what he's doing and he blesses me to know it because I ask him.
Okay. So it sounds like I'm kind of putting this into two categories, but you can tell me, is that you've had personal spiritual experiences, you said prayer, reading, listening to things, and then like group experiences, a bishop being called, church services. Are there any other ways you'd categorize that? Is that a good way to categorize it? Is there another way to categorize it?
Well, I've actually seen angels.
Okay.
I was at my house once, and after reviewing family history with my mother for about 3 hours, I went out in the kitchen, and it was summertime, and all of a sudden the screen door opened, and the room filled up with men, and they surrounded me in the room. And then they all started laughing and joking about their Earth experience when they was alive on Earth, and then they vanished as quickly as that.
Wow.
It was very, very cool.
Huh.
The first time I read the Book of Mormon, a very distinct voice, I went to pick it up, and a very distinct voice said, good. So I've had experiences like that. When I was in the mission field, I went to Scotland. I woke up one morning about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and the Spirit was so strong in the room, and I felt the presence of angels leaving. And the Spirit told me that the angels were there teaching me. And when I woke up, they left. And the Spirit lingered with me, as powerful as I've ever felt it in my life, until noon that day. It was just the longest spiritual experience I've ever had. It was just amazing. So things like that is that God has been kind enough to bless me with that kind of knowledge has been good for me.
Yeah.
And my knowledge. And I don't push that on people, because that's taking away their agency, and people have their agency.
Yeah. Their choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, God wouldn't take away anybody's agency, and doesn't. So I don't think we as people have a right to try to motivate and compel people to do something that they're not interested in doing.
Yeah, their free will.
Yep.
So let me, actually, I'm going to ask this first. How confident are you that God created all things on a scale from like 0% to 100%? I have no doubt.
I would have to say 100%.
100%?
Yep.
Okay. And out of all of the things that and I've taken some notes and listed some
Yep.
things, your experiences, is there one category that makes you more confident than the others that's true?
I think it's just a combination of them all.
Okay.
Just a
Okay.
combination of them all. If they weren't all there, meshing with each other, then I wouldn't have that 100% knowledge.
Okay. So let me just theoretically say, let's say that I said, I'm going to take away the experience that you said you saw angels, okay? And let's say that didn't happen. Would your confidence lower to 98%? Is it like each of these
Nope.
things is like
Nope.
a percentage? Okay.
It would,
Okay.
because I've had so many other experiences
Okay.
in the temples and
Okay.
elsewhere.
So,
That was just to mention a couple.
okay. So, at what point, or actually, let me ask you this first. How long would you say you've been 100% confident of that?
I'd say probably for the last 15 years.
Okay. So at what point, at some point before that 15 years, you were lower than 100%?
Yep.
At what point did your confidence raise to the point that you were at 100%?
I think when I started reading commentaries that helped me understand the Old Testament and the New Testament
Okay.
better. Because you can't understand the Old Testament if you don't understand their culture.
Okay.
And the commentaries teach you their culture so that when you do read it, you have a better understanding of exactly what it was, and it brings it more to life.
Okay.
So instead of just something that you're reading but you don't fully understand and you're confused about, it just brings it all to life and gives it a reality for you.
Okay. So if you, before you started reading those commentaries, how confident would you say you were at that point?
I'd probably say 80%.
Okay, interesting. So those commentaries really had a
They
big
made a big difference for
effect.
me.
They
Yep.
raised you from 80 to 100%.
Yeah.
So what was it about those commentaries? You said that they explained the culture, but how does that raise your confidence higher?
Well, you hear all these stories in primary and Sunday school and in life, and you never can really put it all together. And you hear so many people in the world say it's just a fairy tale, but then you hear other people say it's the greatest history the world has ever made, and it's been here from the beginning, just added to and added to from the beginning. And when you can put it all together, the Old Testament and New Testament, the Book of Mormon and all of that, Doctrine and Covenants, when you kind of put it all together, it gives you a timeline, and it gives you a reality of wow.
So so once you read those commentaries, you were able to kind of put puzzle pieces together, like things made sense that didn't make sense before.
Yeah.
So can you explain what it was that started making sense?
Not any in particular thing, because there's so many instances
Okay.
in there, throughout the Old Testament especially. I was at a point about 7 or 8 years ago where I never intended to read the Old Testament again.
Okay.
And then I had this kind of empty feeling. And then one day, after about 2 years, I said, you know what? I've got to read that. And I started reading the commentaries, probably earlier than that. And it all... And I developed a profound love for the Old Testament.
Okay.
Just what the people went through and put others through.
Did reading those commentaries lead to any of these other experiences you mentioned? You mentioned praying about the Book of Mormon, listening to General Conference, the experience of a bishop being called, seeing things. Did the commentaries like open a door to other experiences?
I wouldn't necessarily say they did.
Okay.
They just added to They just added 2.
Okay. That's interesting. It's interesting to me that the commentaries had such a big effect. If you had to say what had the second biggest effect after the commentaries, could you put your finger on something?
Sure, spiritual experiences, seeing
Okay.
angels, uh, going to the temple and not knowing it was going to happen, but ending up being at the temple at the exact moment I needed to after driving 5 hours, not even knowing why, and actually end up in a sealing room where my grandmother and grandfather were sealed together.
Wow.
Yeah, bumping into a cousin who was there, and he said this was the last day the work could have been done. And I got to witness that, and my wife got to stand in as my grandmother, or great-grandmother.
Why was it? Sorry, this is a tangent, but why was the last day the work could be done?
Because apparently, at that time, and this is quite a few years ago, you submit your names to the temple and you can reserve them. But he said after 60 days, then they take it off reserve, and then anybody in the church can do those names. And they had been reserved, and it was the last day.
Wow.
And he almost didn't go to do it.
Wow.
My cousin, I happened to bump into him in the hallway. And a temple worker had already petitioned me and my brother-in-law and our wives to go to the sealing room and do that. And then we bumped into him, and he followed us. That's what we were there doing. So things like that are just miraculous.
Sorry, a tangent again, and then we get back on track to this 8%. But that reminds me of Elder Anderson's talk from General Conference. So anyway, okay, so we got 80% to 90% become of the commentaries, and then spiritual experiences. What percentage would you say makes up the spiritual experiences you have of that confidence level?
Of the General Conference?
So the spiritual experiences. So if let's imagine that, and I know I couldn't do this, but we took away those spiritual experiences, or they never happened. Then where would you be on your confidence
All of
level?
those experiences were spiritual experiences, so I would have to say 100%.
Okay, so all of them are based on
it is only because of the Holy Ghost that I know these things are true.
Okay. So just to get an idea of what that 100% confidence means, how confident are you that we're having a conversation right now and I'm a real person? What would your confidence level be there?
100%.
Okay, 100%. How confident would you be that do you know what germ theory is? So, if you wash your hands, you're less likely to get sick. Let's just say that. How confident are you that that's true?
Just from what science has said.
Yeah, and what you know.
And proven. And proven over the years. Doctors used to operate and kill people because they didn't wash up. They didn't realize that was a need now, today. So I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Okay, if you had to put a percentage on it?
Well, at this point with science, I would have to say probably 100%.
Okay. What about the Earth is round?
The Earth is round?
Yeah, the Earth is a spherical shape.
Well, I've flown around the world.
Okay.
I've seen pictures of it from the moon. I think it's a given.
Okay. Is there anything that you can think of that you're at a low confidence at, or you're at a 50% confidence at?
Yep, my ability to make it back to my Father in heaven.
Okay.
Because I'm immortal.
What about something outside of the realm of religion and spirituality?
Well, our government.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I think our government's going right down the toilet.
Okay.
And I think the people are kept in the dark in a big way. I mean, Congress goes in and do stuff. The president is just signing papers, and they're giving away.
Okay.
We're being sold out, is my opinion.
How confident would you say that what you just said about we're being sold out in our whatever senators and government leaders, how confident would you say that that's true?
I would say I don't think everybody in the Senate and the Congress is selling us out, but I think there's so few that are not that they don't have a say.
Okay, if you had to put a percentage on it.
Oh, I'd say probably 80%.
Okay, so what's the difference? The part of the reason I ask these questions is because there's a lot of things you're 100% confident at.
Yeah.
That one you're 80% confident at. What's the difference? Like why are some things you're very highly confident of and some things you're not?
Well, the government is, and all governments, I guess, are constantly lying. They're not telling the truth.
Okay.
They hide things from us. They don't want us to know things. There's so many things that are happening internationally and in our own country that that we don't know about, or they don't want us to know about. And if they do tell us, we find out after they tell us that it was fictional or only a part truth.
Okay.
But the media, how do you know what to believe with the media anymore?
So let me word it in a different way to try to help get what I'm getting at. What does 100% confidence mean to you? If you had to describe what that means to
Absolute truth.
you. No doubt at all.
No doubt.
Okay.
Absolute truth.
Do you think that you can say the earth is spherical, God created the earth, if we wash our hands we won't get sick, or
Yep.
in general, do you think you can be absolute certain of all of those things, that you can have no doubt of them?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's interesting to me, because for me, there's a lot of things I believe, but there's very few things that I would say I'm 100%. I have absolute no doubt. So, if coming back to the spiritual experiences, because that's what we started on, God created all things. You said spiritual experiences. All these things are spiritual experiences you've had. If a Muslim in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia came to you and said, I am 100% certain that the Quran is real because of spiritual experiences I've had, and maybe they even say, I've seen angels, I've had these experiences, what would you say about that?
Well, I don't think seeing angels and having spiritual experiences are limited to Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
Right? The Spirit of God will bear witness to anybody of anything that is truth. So you could be an axe murderer.
Okay.
But if you find some truth and it's a real truth, then the Spirit, it may not because you're a bad person, but you can or likely could have a spiritual experience because of truth. The Spirit bears witness of all truth.
Okay. So everyone, regardless of what religion they are, can know that God created all things through their spiritual experiences.
I've talked to a lot of people, and I said, why do you do that? And they go, it makes me feel so good. And I said, do you know what that good feeling is? And they say, no, what is it? And I say, it's the Holy Ghost. It's Heavenly Father saying to you by way of the Holy Ghost, I like what you're doing, so I'm going to make you feel the Spirit, feel good.
Okay.
So you want to do it more.
So do you think there is any differences with a Muslim, a Jew, a Baptist, Catholic, Buddhist, and you in coming to
I
that
think the
conclusion?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is complete truth.
Okay.
I think most other religions have a tremendous amount of truth, perhaps some don't, but I think most religions have a lot of truth in them. I don't think they have the complete truth. Otherwise, they'd have a prophet, they'd have apostles, they'd have 70s, the same organization that was set up in Jesus' day, basically the same organization that was set up in Moses' day, with leaders,
Okay.
with leadership. And a prophet of God receives revelation from God for the people,
Okay.
for all the people of the world that want to listen.
So, those, by the way, I'll say, are all very interesting claims that I think deserve a whole discussion on by themselves. But to keep it on the topic, I think that's very interesting. But to keep it on the topic of God created all things, what if there was, I don't know, a Hindu who said, no, I say the gods created all things. How, and I've had spiritual experiences that lead me to believe that's true. How do I know to believe you versus the Hindu?
Well, like I say, the Spirit can bear witness to anybody and everybody. But if a person is willing to sit down with you and talk about the gospel and listen to the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith and the simplicity of the gospel of Jesus Christ, it's a Spirit that bears witness to them. I could not convince you or the Hindu or anybody of truth, and I would never intend to. But the Spirit of God can, and if a person will take the time and listen to a person that's speaking by the Spirit, then they can know. And just like I started with very little knowledge, they can gradually grow and grow and grow in their life with a greater, more profound knowledge until they obtain that 100%.
Okay. So, but a Hindu, for example, they might say something very similar.
Yeah.
And say, okay, the breath of life or the life-giving power that is in all of us, or the gods, or whatever they would say, has given me those spiritual experiences,
Yeah.
and I have grown to know that the gods, and they're talking about their gods, have created
Yeah.
the world and the universe. So what's the
Hindus,
difference there?
Hindus have a lot of truth.
Okay.
The Spirit of God bears witness to all truth. He's not partial to people in their religions. He's not partial to them. He won't bear testimony to them of something that's not true. And they may receive spiritual witness of their truths that they know.
Okay. How would... Okay, so if I understand you right, there's not an easy way for me as an outsider to look at you and a Hindu and tell who's true. I have to feel the Spirit myself.
You have to explore it and desire to exercise faith, to take the sacrifices so you can have the faith, which gives you the hope to know these things.
Okay. So how, let's say I came to that and I say, okay, I'm not going to rely on your word or a Hindu's word or a Buddhist. I'm going to go and do that myself, and I'm going to go and pray about it. And let's say I came to the same spiritual experience where I felt that warmth and that peace, and I believe God created all things. How do I know I can trust that feeling of warmth and peace?
It's your feeling.
Okay.
You have to learn to understand it. You might not trust it at first. It might take a while.
Okay.
It might take multiple experiences. But you have to learn to trust your feelings and trust that that's not a feeling that you personally could give yourself.
Okay.
Without the Spirit.
So let's say, so what is it about having multiple experiences that increases your confidence?
Like I say, they all kind of mesh in, come in together, and for me, it's happened so many times in my life, from the age of 21 mostly. Well, actually, it started before that, and I never realized it. When I was baptized at the age of 8, was really had my first spiritual sanctifying experience in my life, and that's the beginning. But I didn't really realize that till I was 21, when I really started looking into those things myself, and then just growing and having more and more spiritual experience, being married in a temple, the temple experiences, Watching my dad and my mom grow up in the gospel. They joined a church about a year before I was born. So I kind of, as a young person, watched them grow in the gospel as well.
Okay.
And my dad eventually became a patriarch.
Okay.
But he had to grow into that, and it took years.
So when, let's say again, a Buddhist, for example, has a different conception of God, or believes, maybe doesn't even believe that God created the universe. I don't know. I don't know enough of Buddhism, but it just was. It hasn't been created or destroyed, and we're just here being reincarnated multiple times. And they say the same thing to me. They say, I've had multiple experiences over time that lead me to believe that what I believe is true. Should they trust that?
Trust what you say?
Or trust what they're saying if they say, I've had these experiences that lead me to believe that what I think about the universe is true is true.
Yeah, I think if they have a spiritual experience, they should trust that.
Okay. So can multiple people have spiritual experiences that lead to contradictions, and both of those are true? So let's say, I'm going to take it outside of the creation thing just as an example. Muslims, the Quran says God cannot beget and is not begotten. So Jesus is not the Son of God, right? And a Christian would say, no, Jesus is the Son of God, and he was born in a miraculous way. And they're contradictions. Both of those things can't be true at the same time, right? So if they both have spiritual experiences that lead them to believe their beliefs, but they're contradictory things, can they both be true at the same time?
Like I say, the Spirit bears witness of anything that is true and right. And they all have, there's thousands of religions on the earth, and there's millions, billions of people that believe in their religion and stand by them with a passion because of the spiritual experiences they have. Sometimes the spiritual experience in a person's life may overlap into things that maybe aren't quite right, to the point that they feel that it is right because they do overlap.
Okay. So how are you sure that hasn't happened with you?
Huh? Well, I'm not saying it. I was raised in a church. It's been in my life, all of my life. And to say it hasn't happened to some degree, I'm sure it has at some point in my life.
Okay.
But I think I've kind of outgrown that, and to the point that because of spiritual experiences, that I still have that 100% at this point in my life.
Okay. So some that can happen to someone, and maybe it's happened to you to a certain degree, but
everyone has doubts sometimes in their life.
Okay. But what is it that makes it so that you're so sure now that you've outgrown it? Does that make sense?
Just the spiritual experiences that I've had in my life.
Okay.
And the knowledge. Like I say, I spend at least 2 hours a day reading.
Okay.
And listening to general conference talks and watching videos and some would say that I'm steeped in the gospel of Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ made it very, very clear when he was on the earth, and even before he was on the earth, and he has in these latter days what is right and what is wrong. And you just listen to that doctrine or read that doctrine right directly from him as he spoke it, and the Spirit just is profoundly overwhelming.
Okay. Is there anything that you could learn that would change your confidence level? Is there something that if you learned tomorrow, it would make you less confident that that's true?
If I learned something, I would have to do some serious pondering about it before it would change my confidence level. But
Okay.
I don't see at this point in my life that, and there's a lot of bad things that go on in this world, children being killed and raped and all that stuff that discourages a lot of people. But like I said before, we're born into this world. The most important thing God gave us is our agency. And people make their own choices. And He doesn't stop us because He wouldn't be a God if He did.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's all my questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Nope.
Okay. Did you tell
Are you
me?
from a radio station or?
No. So this is part of. There's a community you can look it up online. It's called Street Epistemology,
Yeah.
and it's a community of people who use. I like to think of it as using the Socratic method. It's asking questions
Yeah.
to get at the heart of why people believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And so in street epistemology communities that are conversations I've had online, I've talked to people about political beliefs, I've talked to people about religious beliefs,
Yeah.
about God, and the goal is to try to get people to reflect on what they believe and why, and if it seems reasonable, if
Yeah.
it seems like it's well supported. For me, as I've done this, I have learned to have better conversations with people.
Yep.
Instead of telling people, like I like what you said, like you don't force you don't force this on other people. It's helped me to learn I shouldn't try to force what I believe on somebody else. Instead, I should come from a place of asking them a lot of questions,
Which you
to
do.
make sure I understand. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you've gained a tremendous amount of knowledge speaking to the people that you've spoken to over the years.
Oh yeah, and I
It's amazing.
I
isn't it?
haven't even done it a lot. There's others who have done a lot more than I
Yeah,
have. So.
yeah. But I mean, you're on a road to just gaining so much wisdom just from talking to people. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions that you have?
Nope. I think
Okay.
I'm good.
Is there anything from my experience that would have made this experience better for you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It was all good, and thank you for having me.
Well, tell your wife thank you for for being put on hold for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she's in New Hampshire.
Okay.
I come out here by myself for 17 days. Well, no, a month actually. 17 is the number of children my wife and I have.
Nice.
So,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. 17. And how many of them are in Utah?
8.
8? Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. That sounds like a busy time raising children. A lot of.
The only reason I'm walking around today and yesterday because all my kids are at work.
Yeah.
And he's going to pick me up right after work, and tomorrow night we're going camping, and then who knows what the next 4 or 5 days will bring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, have fun camping.
I get a son that does slackline. You ever know what that is?
Yeah, like you balance.
Yeah, on a cable.
Yeah.
He just went to Oregon and
Okay.
walked a line that was 3/4 of a mile long.
Okay.
And I think Europe has the world record.
Okay.
Somebody over there. And when he gets a passion for something, he goes for it. So his goal is to beat the world record for slackline. And
Well,
so
good luck to him.
I'm going to go up and watch him Sunday night do some slackline. And
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
thank you. And your name again
thanks to
was?
me, Matthew.
Matthew. Thank you.
And you're Bryan?
I am Bryan with
With
a Y.
a Y.
The
Okay.
celestial way to spell it.
The correct way.
And your name was?
My name's David.
David. Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
so much for stopping and spending time with us. Happy trails.
So yeah, how was that?
So
Before you start,
Yeah.
you said that you've never done this in real life.
yes. So that was my first time doing it in person with somebody. That, as far as I know, I think all the other times I've done it has been online, via YouTube live stream or Stereo, which is an audio app. So,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of want to get a sense of how the conversation went from an SE perspective, and I'm also interested in the differences that you've noticed in real life versus the way that you've done it in the past.
Yeah, so I'll start with that question first. I think the difference in doing it in person is that I feel like seeing the facial expressions makes a big difference. I feel like I feel like it was disarming. Maybe is the best word, to be able to see each other's faces. It felt more personal, more connecting, and
There's a lot of information that you get
yeah,
being in the same space as someone, right?
yeah, and I think it helped me know how to respond as well, because like it's easier to tell how much to push, or how, like, when you can see somebody's face. So I think that's one thing that I think is a big difference. It's also nice being outside. I mean, it's nice weather, so
Right.
that's nice too. And then as far as how I think it went, I feel like I feel like I went through. I glanced over this at the end, and I was like, okay, I think I went through the questions that I would go through. Maybe another question that I was thinking of, but I forgot to ask, was, does that method, praying and getting a spiritual experience, is that reliable in other areas? That would have been a fruitful area of discussion as well. And I did think of that, and I forgot to ask that. So that's one I think I missed that would have been good. But other than that, I think I asked good questions. The one piece that I think is hard for me personally is when somebody has a claim that I believe is true. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as well, and him being from New Hampshire, I didn't think that he would be a member of our church, but he was, and a lot of the things he was saying I can relate to, and I understand. There's some things that I'm like, oh, I don't know. He claimed that he saw angels, and I'm like, I have not seen angels. I don't.
Uh-huh.
But there, a lot of the other things I can relate to, because I feel like I've had similar experiences.
Uh-huh.
And so it's hard for me to know. In some ways, I think that's actually good, because I feel comfortable pushing, because I know that I'm not pushing from a place of bad intent. Like, not, I don't know if bad intent is the right word, but it's like, but at the same time, it can be hard because maybe I'm not asking the right questions because of my own bias. So, yeah, I don't know. I think those are.
I thought you did fantastic. Yeah, I was listening in, and in my mind, I was like, oh, I hope he asks this question. I hope he asks this question, and this question, based on what he was saying. And it was like, yeah, you're doing just that.
Oh,
So, like,
good.
you were asking the questions I was hoping you would ask. Did you, saying that, did you happen to get a sense of why he thought his reasons were sufficient enough to support the confidence that he had? That was like the only question that I was like, I wonder what he thinks about that. Like, because that seems to me like the kind of quintessential SE question. Like, why is he convinced that the reasons that he's using are sufficient enough to support the confidence that he had? And I think in a roundabout way, there was that investigation because of the outsider test and, testing it in those ways. But how do you feel about that, and were you interested in that?
Yeah, yes, I definitely was interested in that, and I don't think I asked that question directly, but I was trying to get at it, and I think that would have been a good question to ask. I honestly, that is something that I am confused. I don't know if that's the right word, but puzzled at it. We had a conversation earlier where we were talking about this. how people can have different confidence levels, because like he's like, okay, I said, can you, like, if you washed your hands, like I mentioned germ theory, and like that would reduce your likelihood to get sick, how confident are you of that? And he said 100%. And I'm like trying to get at, okay, so you're saying 100% here, 100% here, 100% here. Like, why, how can you be so confident? Because I wouldn't say, I believe in germ theory. I believe if I wash my hands that I will reduce my likelihood of being sick, but I wouldn't say I'm 100%.
Yeah.
And I would say the earth is spherical. I definitely believe that's true, but I wouldn't say 100%. So that's interesting.
Yeah, what's something that he believes that he's not 100% certain about?
Yeah. So, and the one thing was ideas about the government that I didn't want to like go on a total tangent and
Right.
talk all about that. But yeah, so that was I was puzzled at that, and I don't think I found out the answer. Yeah, why so high? Why 100%?
Hi guys.
So
Hey.
I'm Paige with our Capital Preservation Board office inside.
Hey there.
I just wanted to ask you guys a couple questions real quick about your kind of setup over here.
Yeah,
Sure.
So the biggest one, is this for any sort of commercial use?
no.
Okay, it is for something.
Passion project.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Passion project.
And this is actually Street Epistemology International, is a nonprofit organization, but
Got it.
this is, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you guys are good for today. Just know, typically when we have people film up here, we do ask for insurance and some other things. Just if you see up here again, we might ask for that stuff, but you guys are good for today. So.
It's public property though, right?
Yes, however, there are just rules that come specifically with film in general, personal filming, commercial filming. There are certain rules about setup for film that will automatically make it commercial filming, whether or not it's for personal use. There's just a bunch of red tape to go through kind of with that sort of thing. So
Okay.
if you guys have any questions, I can give you our office phone number. We have our email all available on our website, utahstatecapital.utah.gov. So feel free to reach out to us if you have
Cool.
any questions.
We're just here for the
Okay.
day, so
Like I said, I'm not worried about it today, but just
Okay.
in case some in the future UHP tries to get you guys moving along. Or
yeah,
something,
we don't want to
Okay.
break any rules. so-
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I said, you're totally fine today. Just figured I'd let you know. One of my team members is like, "There's some people filming out there," and we always gotta go talk to them. Some people are like, "Oh, wow, what are you talking about?" Push back really
Yeah.
hard. So I'm like, I'm
You,
like I said, not worried about it, but just figured.
okay.
Let you know.
Thanks for the
check,
info.
Yeah, check out Street Epistemology. His YouTube channel is called Sound
You
Epistemology.
can scan
So,
that QR code too if you want.
Okay, thank you guys.
Take care.
see ya.
So what were we talking about?
If his confidence level was supported by the evidence that he had, and it was like, yeah, I feel like, I mean, I tried to get out that at a roundabout way, but I feel like it was, I think asking that question directly would have been helpful. So,
And so just to summarize, being raised in it and spiritual experiences got him to 80,
mm-hmm.
and then commentary got him from 80 to 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think the commentary he ended up categorizing in the category of spiritual experiences, and so it sounded like that 100%, if he had to categorize it, all came from spiritual experiences, but different kinds. And so the commentary was like one category that really raised his confidence. So,
And there was a time where he was saying like that they're all interwoven, and if one was taken away, then what? I don't think that I heard that part all the way. So do you remember?
And this is why I asked that question about like, have you always been at 100%, and what raised it from 80 to 100? Because at first he was saying, well, all of these things add up to my 100%. And so I said, okay, if I take one of them away, then that means it would lower your 100%, right? And he said, well, no, because I've had plenty of others. And then I said, okay. And that's when I backtracked and said, okay, so were you always at 100? When was a point that you were lower? And then that's when we got into that conversation. So it sounds like to me, if I had to repeat what he said, and I don't know if I understand this correctly, that there are points when he was at a lower confidence, maybe even lower than 80 before that, and that he's had spiritual experiences that raised his confidence, and then getting to a point where he feels like he's at 100, and then having more spiritual experiences that doesn't really do anything. It's I'm already at 100, and so it's almost like I was saying, hey, take away one of those spiritual experiences, and he's like, no, you're taking away the icing on the cake. That's how I would put it, I think. So that's interesting. I don't know if it totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but
Are you aware of the so Spaghetti Eddie Deep Conversations, I think is his channel?
mm-mm.
Plug. But his gumbo analogy. So we have all these spices in the gumbo.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these spices are added together to get to this level of spiciness.
Okay.
If I took one of those spices away and it doesn't change the amount of spiciness of the gumbo, then this spice has no effect on the level of hotness or spiciness, right?
I like that.
I do too.
Oh, that's a good. I like that. Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that one with me. Yeah. Yeah. That I wish I would have known that when I was doing that analogy when I was doing the interview, because I think that would have been a helpful one right there.
Because if you take it away and it doesn't change your confidence, then it has no effect on it.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're right.
Cool. How long do you think your interview was?
Oh, I'm gonna guess 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
just about. From
Okay.
from what I checked. I think if I had any criticism,
Okay.
because I like to try to think of at least something to criticize. Maybe do a check-in as far as like time.
Okay.
Like make sure that they're okay continuing time-wise. Like
Okay.
we don't know if he had an appointment or
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that I can really think of.
Okay. And what about the length of the interview? Like, is 45 minutes seem like a...
I think it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
A lot of people would say, it would be too long. I think that if you're achieving the goals of helping them critically reflect on the quality of their reasoning, if that's happening, I think that's okay.
Yeah,
and I think if
I
it
like
takes
that.
that to get to that goal, I think it's okay. Like
Yeah.
a lot of my videos are pretty long. And yeah, I mean, as far as viewer retention, that could have an effect on it. But it just depends on what your goal is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I really like your answer of like, if you're helping someone critically think, it's the time that's needed for that. So I think I agree with that. I think as far as like what length, how much to cut, and like what to put on YouTube, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. So and I obviously haven't put a lot of stuff on YouTube, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. So
Cool. Anything else you want to say before I turn the cameras off?
no.
You want to do another one?
Yeah. I would love to do another one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think it's almost 3.
Probably have time for
Perfect.
one other one,
Cool. We'll try to get another
or
one. then.
depending on how long
Awesome.
it is. Maybe.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
Again, that was, nice
Okay.
work, especially for your first.
Thank you.
One last question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you only had a chance to do one more SE conversation
Okay.
ever,
Okay.
and all conditions ideal, like nice weather or a good connection on the internet,
Okay.
would you do one online or would you do it in person?
Oh, like so there's no other factors determining
Everything ideal.
Oh, do it in person. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. I think again it's more practical reasons in my priorities and schedule that keep me from doing it in person. But I would do it in person.
Cool.
So,
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to do it.
yeah. I think there are people you can reach online that may not go to public places that you'd be more likely to reach that way. And so I don't think it's an avenue to like ignore. But if I had to choose a preference, yeah, I'd say in person. Or yeah. So.
Cool. Awesome. Right on. All right. Well, I'm gonna cut.
Good.
And all the cameras were working the whole time.
Oh, great. And I'm actually kind of glad she came over because now we actually have verbal permission saying, yeah, you guys are good today.
Yeah, for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
We've got to pass.
Yeah.